Everyone, bonjour à tous, доброго дня усім. On behalf of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, the Embassy of Ukraine in Canada and the Russian Embassy Protesters Group, I welcome you to this solemn memorial event. Remember Ukraine's children. Je vous souhaite la bienvenue à la cérémonie de souvenons-nous des enfants ukrainiens. Je suis Ksenia Zubri, la vice-présidente du Congrès des Ukrainiens canadiennes à Ottawa, et je suis honorée d'être votre maîtresse de cérémonie aujourd'hui. My name is Ksenia Zubri. I'm the vice president of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress in Ottawa. I'm honored to be your master of the ceremony today. We acknowledge that today we are gathered on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Ashibonobes people. Today, on June 4th, the world marks an International Day of Innocent Children Victims of Aggression. In Ukraine, this day is honored as a day of commemoration of children murdered by Russia in its war of aggression. We gather on the West Lawn on a Parliament Hill to honor Ukrainian children, memory of Ukrainian children, those lives were stolen as a result of Russia's brutal war. 631 children have been killed. These children had names, they had birthdays, they had dreams, and we will not let them be forgotten. Thank you for standing with us here today, in solidarity, in sorrow, and in hope for justice. We begin our program with a moment of prayer in a song. Please welcome Anna Boyko, a young, brave Ukrainian girl who came to Canada from Bucha 3 years ago because of brutal Russian war. She will perform Ave Maria, a heartfelt tribute to the hundreds of Ukrainian children whose lives were stolen, and for those still suffering because of cruel war. Let your voice carry of sorrow, our love, and our unbreakable hope. now invite our honored guest to share a few words in remembrance and resolve. Please welcome Her Excellency Yulia Kovalev, Ambassador of Ukraine in Canada.
Honorable members of parliament, senators, guests, Ukrainian friends, and those people who care about Ukraine and about Ukrainian children. Each year on this day we honor the memory of children who have been killed by Russian aggression. And our thoughts are every day with the families, Ukrainians, whose children continue to suffer from this brutal war. Since the start of the full-scale invasion, there are over 707 children who will never be back to school, who will never be passing these days exams as they had the attempt to go to university. There are over 700 broken families with their hearts broken because their future, their beloved children have been killed by Russians. There are over 32,000 of Ukrainian children who have been injured by Russia's brutal war. Those children who suffered the most horrific in their life, the war. And there are over 19,546 children who have been illegally deported to Russia, who continue to suffer there inhuman Russian pressure. The children are the most vulnerable in our society. Children are our future. No single nation has the future if they don't care about children. And that's why the inhuman Russian aggression and the war crimes against children, it's something what deserve our special actions. Not only the words of condemnation, but a real joint action to bring Russia accountable for this war, and also to put the pressure on Russia to stop this war. Because otherwise, unfortunately, these numbers, as we will mark this day in the future, will be only rising. So today, as we commemorate those children who lost their lives during the war, and thinking about the thousands of Ukrainian children who are forced today to spend their nights in the bomb shelters, who now went to schools which are fully underground, just because this is the safest place for them to continue to study. And this is the safest place for them to get their education. And many of those children who were together with their families fleeing their homeland, don't see their relatives for more than 3 years. And I think we as an adults and the people who share the same values today and the coming days ahead, as including this year when Canada is leading G7, the group of most powerful and most developed democracies in the world, those countries who share the values of protecting the human rights and international rule-based order, it's also a great chance for this leadership to be shown. And to stop the number of children which we commemorate today and who lost their lives, we need to increase the pressure on Russia. We need to be very strong in sanctions on Russia. We need to be very strong to hold Russia accountable for those wars. And we need to continue to work together to help those children to be brought to normal life, including helping with rebuilding Ukraine. Because rebuilding Ukraine will serve the ability to these children to continue their education, to be able to dream big about their future in a free and sovereign Ukraine. That's why the Russian sovereign assets need to be seized in support of those children, in support of the future of Ukraine, so that families can be brought back home to the safe and prosperous Ukraine. And Canada has here being a leader on all those files. And I think in the days ahead, as well, and Canada will be hosting G7, there is even more importance and more urgency of those joint actions. I'm also very grateful for Canada to co-lead with Ukraine the international coalition of returning the illegally deported Ukrainian children. You'd probably reading in the news and in the social media the joy we feel when one single child is being returned back to Ukraine. We have already over 1,000 of children who have been returned back home, but still we have more to do. There is a lot of work ahead of us. So we count on your support, we count on your humanity to help us to be able to take care of those who are the most vulnerable among us, our children. And I'm really here to say thank you for all of you and calling you for the decisive actions in the memory of those children who lost their lives, and thinking about the future of many of the Ukrainian children who continue to suffer the horror in their life as we are all witnessing the Russian continuation of its brutalities. Thank you all. І слава Україні!
Thank you, Ambassador Kovalev. Now I would like to welcome Alexandra Khechey, President of Ukrainian Canadian Congress, who represents the voice of more than 1 million and 400,000 Ukrainian community in Canada to deliver the speech. He said that if I ever wrote anything in Ukrainian or to Ukrainians, he would speak to me in a different manner. I heard screams, and after that he showed me a photo of my father. My father is a soldier in the armed forces of Ukraine. He said, I cannot write to my father at all. When you're in Russia, in occupied territory, you have no rights. You can't do the right thing. You can't admit you're Ukrainian. You cannot say that you love Ukraine. These are the words of Vladislav, a Ukrainian boy who was taken to a camp in Russian-occupied Crimea. This is the ordeal faced by tens of thousands of Ukrainian children who, thanks to the work of organizations like Save Ukraine, are slowly being rescued, and of course to the government of Ukraine, who is working on liberating these children. Vladislav shared his story not too long ago in the House of Commons here in Canada. So we are here today to remember the hundreds of innocent Ukrainian children murdered by Russia. We are here to remember the thousands of children maimed and injured by Russia's criminal bombing of civilians. We're here to remember the tens of thousands who are still held in Russian captivity. We are here to say to the world, we will never forget, we will never forgive, and we will not rest until every single Russian official responsible for these horrendous crimes faces justice. I now ask you all to pause in place. Let us observe a moment of silence in memory of all the Ukrainian children who were killed and for the heroes who gave their lives for Ukraine. Thank you for sharing this moment of silence with us as we listened to the heartbeat of all of those children. May the memory of the victims be eternal.
Вічна пам'ять.
Щиро дякую, пані Лесю. Now I would like to invite Honorable Senator Stan Kuchar, Independent Senator from Nova Scotia, to speak.
Friends, welcome and thank you all for gathering here on such a solemn and significant day. We are gathered on the lawn in front of our Parliament, a symbol of democracy, freedom, and justice, to honor the memory of all those Ukrainian children who've been killed as a result of Russia's illegal, brutal, and genocidal war on Ukraine. Each of these children had a name. They lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow. They are no longer with us. Each had a future that was snatched from them. However, they also leave behind many other children, thousands who have been injured, stolen from their families, traumatized, in a campaign designed to erase Ukrainian identity and to destroy a people. Let us be clear. These are war crimes. They are an assault not only on Ukraine, but on the very foundations of the international rule of law. This, my friends, is genocide. Today we gather with the purpose to remember the names of all these, to recount their stories, to say clearly that we will never forget. Canada stands with Ukraine regardless of where in Canada you are from. We must remain united in our commitment to Ukraine for the ultimate victory of Ukraine, for the return of peace and freedom to that land. Our support needs to be military, it needs to be humanitarian, and it needs to be political. But above all, my friends, it must be moral. It is deeply, deeply human. When we leave here, we will go about our business. We will do many things today. But I hope that for the rest of the day, none of us will forget that we were here, now, in this place. And we will remember us being here, and we will remember them. Slava Ukraini.
Thank you, Senator, for your words and for your constant support. I now invite Ivan Baker, a Member of Parliament, to share a few words.
Slava Ukraini. It's wonderful to see all of you here today on this solemn occasion. Thank you for being here. My name is Ivan Baker. I'm the MP in Etobicoke Centre, but also chair of the Canada-Ukraine Parliamentary Friendship Group, which is basically the Ukraine caucus in our parliament. And it's great to see colleagues from all sides of the House here today to show their support on this important occasion. We're here to commemorate the children who have been murdered, who have been raped, who have been deported to Russia. And as one of my colleagues said, as Senator Kuchar said, this is not just a war crime, it's genocide. In fact, that's why the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin and for another individual for their role in leading this effort to destroy the lives of these children by deporting them, by murdering them, by kidnapping them. and many other horrific things. We need to get these children back, but we also need this to stop. And I want to talk about that. I want to pick up on what the ambassador was saying a few moments ago, Ambassador Kovalev. Canada's been playing a leading role alongside Ukraine in the effort to get these children back. Ukraine and Canada launched the International Coalition for the Return of Ukrainian Children in Kyiv in February 2024. Since then, dozens of states, dozens of countries, as well as the Council of Europe, have joined the coalition in an effort to bring the children home. And as co-chair, Canada is working with Ukraine to lead that work, to support dialogue, exchange best practices, to provide material assistance in various forms, practical expertise, and so on. Canada launched the Bring Kids Back Communication Network, which is an international network of coalition members that work on shared information campaigns to raise awareness about this. Because without awareness about this and advocacy, we can't solve this problem. We can't bring the children home. And at the Summit on Peace in Ukraine in Switzerland, Canada announced a package of measures, including supporting vulnerable children and reintegration of displaced children returning to Ukraine. That's an important aspect of this too. It's one thing, we need to bring the children home, but then we need to support them once they're back in Ukraine, support them and their families. In October of last year, many of you were there, Canada hosted the Ministerial Conference on the Human Dimension of Ukraine's Peace Formula, and the countries participating signed the Montreal Pledge, which serves as a roadmap for solutions for the return of Ukrainian deported children, as well as prisoners of war and unlawfully detained civilians. 53 countries and multilateral organizations signed that Montreal Pledge. So Canada's playing a leading role in trying to, again, help rescue these children, bring them back to their homes and to their families in Ukraine, and also provide them with the support that they need once they get back. The reality is that there's a lot more work to do, and I know I can count on the senators and the MPs who are here to continue to support that work, because I know we all share the objective of making sure that those children are brought home. So this is about, what I've just spoken about is about bringing the children home to Ukraine. What we actually need as well is we need the kidnapping and the murder and the deportations to stop. And in my view, for that to happen, Ukraine needs to liberate its children. It needs to liberate all its people. It needs to recover all the territory that Russia has occupied. And until that happens, this is going to continue. And I think we need to be honest with ourselves about that. It's not often the case, especially in our line of work in politics, that the right thing to do is also the expedient thing to do. But in this case, it actually is. It's not just the right thing to do to help Ukraine win and to liberate its people, but it's actually in Canada's national security interests. It's in Canada's national security interest that Ukraine have a decisive victory. Because if Russia wins, or if it just retains the territory it has, never mind the humanitarian cost of that we've already spoken about extensively, but Russia's not going to stop at Ukraine. We know that because Vladimir Putin has told us so. We know that because European leaders have flagged this risk. So we will be next. Canadians will be next in defending ourselves against Russia, whether it's here in the Arctic or supporting our NATO allies in Europe or somewhere else. So that is why our government has said that victory is the only option. That is why we have said that Canada will stand with the Ukrainian people until they win. And that is why that's one of the reasons that Canada's been a global leader in supporting Ukraine, not just on this issue, but on many others, with over $20 billion of military, humanitarian, sanctions, and financial support, and a lot more. So on this somber day, as we remember the children, as we think about the children, let's redouble our efforts to not only help rescue the children and bring them back home, but to help Ukraine achieve a decisive victory. Because if we do that, then we can stop commemorating solemn anniversaries like this one, and we can start celebrating the days since Ukraine's victory, when they reestablish their freedom and their security, and when we will have reestablished ours. Thank you very much. Slava Ukraini!
Thank you, Ivan. I would like to invite Mr. Bazan to share a couple of words with us.
Добрый день. It's my honor to be able to participate today on behalf of our Conservative Caucus and our leader, Pierre Poilievre. Today is the International Day of Innocent Children Victims of Aggression. And I encourage everyone to take time to walk through the names that are laid out behind us here, over 630 names that could be our own children, could be our own grandchildren. My grandkids are 7, 5, and 3, and I noticed that there's even victims out here as young as 1 month old. This is heartbreaking that Russia was targeting children's hospitals, schools, daycares, even when they were warned about bombing the Mariupol Opera House. And there's, children are here, they still bombed it. We have to make sure that those that are responsible for the murder of over 630 children, innocent children that had nothing to do with this war at all, that they are held to account. Those that have gone out and abducted over 19,000 kids and took them back to Russia to reprogram, to brainwash, to integrate into Russian culture and eliminate their Ukrainian culture and heritage, they must be held to account. All of these children will never, ever be able to grow up the way our kids are. They won't be able to just go out and play in the schoolyard. The lost lives will never find new love. They'll never have that chance to just grow up. And I think the gravity of how their lives were stolen because of Vladimir Putin and his war machine should not be lost on anyone. And it's the responsibility of every one of us here to tell that story to everyone in Canada and around the world. I want to thank UCC, the Russian Embassy Protest Group, and the Embassy of Ukraine, Your Excellency, for putting on today's event, because we have to make sure that the memories of the lost are never forgotten. And we want to make sure that this war crime, this atrocity, is a genocidal action as defined by the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. Raphael Lemkin, when he wrote the definition of what a genocide is, one of the conditions is the taking of children and then integrating them into another society to cancel out the other cohort group. So when Russia is trying to Russify Ukraine, that is genocide. When Russia is stealing the children and taking them back to Russia, that is genocide. When they are reprogramming them and brainwashing them that Ukraine is bad and Russia is good, that is genocide. And that is why Canada has led in making sure that this is known as a war crime and is in front of the International Criminal Court. It's more than just Putin. It is more than just the other couple of names that are associated with this. Every soldier who kidnapped a child, every soldier that killed a child, every family that is reprogramming children, or teachers that are reprogramming children, or institutions back in Russia are committing genocide, and they must be held to account. So let's use the Sergei Magnitsky law to sanction those individuals, to name them and shame them, and hold them accountable, and drag them in front of The Hague, where they will face true justice. Slava Ukraini!
Thank you so much, Mr. James Bizan. The voices and lives of Ukrainian children must not be forgotten. Now I would like to invite us to share a couple of words. Heather McPherson, Member of Parliament, Member of Standing Committee for Foreign Affairs International.
So you can tell by my name, Heather McPherson, I am not of Ukrainian descent, and it is a very difficult name, I know, for many people to say. My name is Heather McPherson. I'm the Member of Parliament for Edmonton Strathcona. I'm the Vice Chair of the Ukraine Friendship Association, the Parliamentary Friendship Association, and I'm here on behalf of the New Democratic Party of Canada. And I want to start by thanking the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, the Embassy of Ukraine, Ambassador, and the Russian Embassy Protest Group for organizing this very important and deeply moving event. I'm honored to stand with all of you today. On this solemn occasion, on the International Day of Innocent Children, Victims of Aggression, we gather here not only to remember, we gather here to bear witness. We come together on the sacred ground of the Parliament of Canada, on Parliament Hill, to honor the memory of the over 600 Ukrainian children whose lives were stolen in Russia's brutal war of aggression against Ukraine. Behind every name, I'm a mother, I have children, and behind every one of these names, there is a story that will never be told in full. There is a future that will never unfold. These were children who should have been playing with friends. These are children who should have been learning in school, who should have been growing up surrounded by love and laughter. Instead, they became victims of cruelty and war. A member of parliament from Ukraine once brought me a piece of shrapnel that had been on the schoolyard of her daughter, that had blown up on a schoolyard. And I keep that piece of shrapnel in my desk because it reminds me that that 8-year-old girl is facing the brutality and the horror that no 8-year-old girl should ever have to face. And that member of parliament, that mother, had an app on her phone that would tell her when her daughter's city was being bombed. The horror of that, I think we can't forget. We have to be here bearing witness to this. And I sat on the Foreign Affairs Committee when we listened to many of those children who had been returned to Ukraine. We heard the testimony from them, and it was horrifying. It was horrifying what is being done. And we know that the numbers are staggering. We know that over 19,000 children have been taken from their homes. These are war crimes, this is genocide, and there must be justice for every single one of those children. To the Ukrainian community here and around the world, your courage, your grief, and your strength in the face of this unspeakable loss inspires us. We see you, we mourn with you, and we promise to never forget. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather McPherson, for your kind words and for supporting us and staying with us today. We are honored to welcome a member of distinguished guests, Member of Parliament, Diplomatic Corps, Senators, who have joined us today. We thank you for standing with Ukraine and with children whose voices must never be forgotten.